Welcome back, you guys, to, I'm going to call it officially season 2 of Full Plate of Pasta. We took a break last week. You guys probably saw that. And it actually just came from the fact that if you listened to the last episode, I had this moment where I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is the point of the podcast? And I kind of mentioned this, but I went back and forth on this. Like, do I go all in on the podcast, make it its own brand? We do merch, we do events, we do like something crazy. Does it help with revenue and leads for By the Blazer and other things coming and all this stuff? Or do I just say like, this was fun, I don't have a point and purpose, goodbye. And we're kind of trying to figure out what that looks like in this new season. So something you are going to be seeing from the podcast is one of the biggest changes is we are kind of changing the format of our episodes a little bit. I really sat and I looked at what you guys want to talk about, what you guys want to hear about, and I organized it into like a couple key themes of different topics. One of them being spilling the sauce, which is going to be episodes where I'm just going to be kind of ranting and riffing on something that is relevant to my audience. So whether it's finances, whether it's friendships and relationships, launching a business, just kind of like my own beliefs and thoughts on topics. We're going to have kind of like Q&A type sessions where I'm going to go deep into just different areas of like my business or different areas of things that I have done or experienced. And just that will be like a really fun kind of format of episodes, this or that episodes. If you guys are a By the Blazer client, you guys know I love contrast. I'm always like, this is the pathway here and these are the pros and cons here versus this is the pathway here. So like contrasting two different things. And then with guest episodes specifically, instead of having the traditional format for when guests come on and it's like I'm interviewing them and asking them questions, we are going to be do more of like a collaborative focus with guest episodes. So basically what that's going to look like is I'm going to bring a guest on and we're going to like riff and talk about our beliefs on a topic. So even our episode next week, I'm bringing Lexi back and we're going to be talking about something that's very relevant to both of us right now. And it's going to be more of like a discussion versus an interview style, because to be very honest, I don't feel like interviews are that fun unless you're like a celebrity. And I am definitely not Alex Cooper level right now where I'm interviewing Miley Cyrus and whoever. I'm trying to think of like who else she's like interviewed, Penn Badgley or whoever. Like I'm not bringing on celebrity guests. And although I love to hear about those experiences, I actually think it's more interesting for you guys to hear us talk through our thoughts and beliefs on things, almost like you're like experiencing a conversation in real time versus like an interview in real time. And I'm really excited about that for the podcast because I am having a moment in this time in my year where I'm realizing how much I've deviated from like myself. I think I'm genuinely having an identity crisis in 2025, which I'll talk about a little bit today with like friendships and relationships too, because that's kind of be our topic for this week. But I have always been a very like gut-driven human being. I'm not overly analytical. I'm not very data-driven. I think I am naturally as a person, like I like to look at things and kind of, you know, pro-con list them and do all that kind of stuff. But I'm not necessarily the most data-driven person. I genuinely do trust my gut. Like I've made decisions, big decisions where I'm just like, I'm waking up and I'm feeling this. Like I'm an ENFJ. If you guys are Myers-Briggs people, the feeling is very strong for me. I'm very much like all right, this is what I feel. This is what my gut's telling me to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I think this year I've lost a little bit of that in business, personally. I think that's just a part of growing up as you go through these seasons where you're super, super sure. And then things evolve and shift. And then sometimes you like question yourself and you like lose a little bit of yourself. And you guys have to remember that 1 year ago, minus like 2 months, so 14 months ago, I was literally recording an episode about how I sat down with my parents and told them I ran $1 million company. Like I did not share that for the first 2 years. And that was the fact that it was a year ago. Like I'm not even the same human being as I was a year ago. And then the shifts in business, the shifts personally, moving to Chicago, like there's been so many big kind of moments. And sometimes I feel like I've handled it really well and I felt very sure. And then other times I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I just like don't do anything, or I like throw spaghetti at the wall and pray that something's going to stick and it works. And that's not typically my ammo. I usually am a very sure, confident person. So this year has kind of been like a big question mark of where I'm going, what I'm doing. And so the podcast, obviously, if I'm a question mark as a person, I personally believe that our work and what we put out into the world is a reflection of like what's internal. The external of us is a reflection of the internal. And because the internal has genuinely been like black and confused and darkness and navigating things without a lot of clear direction, the output of my business has been a reflection of that. Thank God, not as bad as I think it could have been, just because I am, I think, really solid in a lot of my business. So I was able to, I think Lexi and people behind the scenes experienced more of the chaos than like what people saw on the forefront. But that was a reflection. Podcast was definitely a reflection of that too, which I'm excited to kind of get back to like my vision of the podcast, which was supposed to be like a lot of fun. And I want to like sit down with you guys and genuinely feel like we're having a FaceTime and having a conversation, because like I do actually enjoy that. Like, I don't think you guys care for me to like sit down and have a formal interview with someone. I don't think you guys care about me, you know, having to be perfect. I think the best thing about this podcast is we don't edit it, minus the beginning and the end. We do not edit it. I don't cut out my ums. I don't perfect it for you guys. It's just genuinely like my thoughts and my feelings and my rawness and my beliefs. And like, I do not say it in a way to make it sound good or to get you guys to want to work with me or like buy from something from me or, you know, purchase something with a link or like any of that. There's no intention outside of like, I get to see Ashley Bennington in her raw, real state. And if someone were to watch it, like there's this unequivocal like ability to be like, okay, this is Ashley Bennington or her core. Like I've been watching a lot of Taylor Swift interviews recently because she's obviously doing her press tour for Life of a Showgirl. What I love about her is I don't feel like she's putting on a performance. She's very well PR trained. I will give her credit on that, but she's not putting on this performance. It's like, she just is herself. And sometimes she's goofy and sometimes she's funny and sometimes she's very like, this is important to me. And I've been very inspired by her demeanor and rawness and realness while also being a very well-spoken, beautiful, kind, solid, very structured, but also very honest and raw human being. That was a lot of words that I just used to describe Taylor Swift. But I adore her. And I think that I've really come to love her as a human being this last year. And I was like kind of having this moment of like, how do I become the Taylor Swift of business consulting and coaching? And I was like, I just need to be like my own fucking human being and like be the most raw version of myself. And I think this year has been a very difficult year. And I think I've lost a little bit of that. And so one of the things that I have been, I think, really struggling with probably for the last about 3 years, but this year has been weight on my fucking shoulders of identity crisis mode is friendships and relationships. And so I want to just have like an honest conversation about what I've been navigating, because I don't know if any of you guys are in your like late 20s, early 30s. Maybe this is something that you just navigate through all of your 30s. I will try not to cry because man, this topic is like really tough for me to talk about. But I think my identity as a human being for most of my life was to be a very good friend. I'm talking extremely present, financially supportive, emotionally supportive, physically like available. I don't even know if that falls under the supportive pocket, but just like can be anywhere, do anything, 5 steps ahead, kind of how I am as a coach. I genuinely feel like that comes a lot from like how I was as a friend. And I was listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast and he talked about how he doesn't care about knowing why we do things. He's like, I don't need to know the why of the behind why I did something or why I became one way. Like, I just feel like that's a waste of time. I do personally like to know the why. And my only why behind that is I felt like I was never a very good daughter or family member. Like I really struggled to be like part of a family unit, but because that was people that I didn't choose. Like I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose my brother, whatever. I kind of never felt like I was very good in that department. So I think I was like, I'm going to make it up in the friend bucket. So I took all my heavy feelingness around family and threw it in like the friend bucket. And I was like, I'm going to be the best friend. I literally have memories. I remember my good friend in high school. Well, we were friends when we were younger. We kind of stopped talking. And then I sent her a letter and was like, do you remember me? I miss you, blah, blah, blah. And we became friends again. One of my oldest friends, I remember we were like out shopping. This is like 7th grade, by the way. 7th grade, we're out shopping and she wanted something. I remember we were at a store and it was like $60, which by the way, when you're in 7th grade, $60 is like $1 million. Like that is so much money. And I remember she wanted it and she's like, well, my mom only gave me $20 for our shopping trip today, which by the way, my parents did not give me any money because I did not get money for shopping trips. Like I was working already like 3 days a week at this point in 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, because I was really tall and I was babysitting like all the time. And I had like 4 women that I babysat for consistently, like their children. And I remember she wanted something. We're at the store. I can visually remember it in the mall. We're in the Chesterfield Mall. It's like in this back corner, maybe by like a Dillard's or something, this corner shop. It was the weirdest fucking shop. I don't even remember what the item is. And she's like, oh, I really want this. And I go, no problem, I'll get it for you. And I remember pulling money out of my wallet and buying her this like $60, it was like maybe an anime thing or something, like not my cup of tea. And she was like, oh, thanks so much. And her being like, I love this. Like, this was so nice of you. I don't know what that triggered in me. You know how they always say when you're a kid, like you do things in response to like how you're praised. I think I was always praised for doing like nice things for people. And I became gift giver Ashley. I think that was like one of the first gift giver Ashley moments, because I even remembered a year later, and it was 8th grade. I think I remember what friend it was, but we went up to like purchase something. And I think the tickets for something, it was some middle school event or something else. And my friend was like, oh, my parents aren't gonna allow me to go because it was like $100 or $80. It was like a high amount of money. And I bought my ticket and her ticket just cause. I don't even remember why. I don't think she asked me to. I don't think she even wanted to go. I just wanted to do it because I wanted to like give my friend something. And I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood, but for some reason I remember those 2 instances very, very well, because I think that started to form my identity of like, well, if my friend can't do it on their own, if they're struggling, if they're whatever, like I'm gonna fill in the gap. It's almost like if you like, I don't even know, like think about this big pool of something and there's these like little gaps or openings. I just wanna fill every opening. I'm like the glue. I just wanna like put it all together. I wanna like make things whole. I wanna make things good. And that's how I was as a friend. And so I did that a lot in middle school and high school. I don't think it necessarily was like harmful at the time, or I felt any weirdness about it, especially around the money piece, because I was my only friend with money. I went to a very privileged school, but I never saw my friends' parents having money as them having money. I was like, oh, they don't have any money because they don't work and they don't make their own money, but their parents have money. Whereas my parents never gave me money, but I always had more money than them because it was my own. In fact, even in like, I remember in 8th grade, one of my friends was like, you need to start dressing like a girl. I was like, I know, I want to go to Hollister or whatever stupid ass store that you go to in like 8th grade. And I dropped like $400, I think, in one weekend. And my friends are like, I don't have 400. And I just made that in a week of babysitting. So I was like, oh, this is just 1 week's of babysitting money. It won't put me behind on paying for college. Like I was a weird kid, you guys. But like, I remember that like it came home. My mom's like, what do you have? I had all these bags of like Hollister thin ass clothing that basically lasted like 2 weeks. But I digress on that because that has nothing to do with the topic. But I just remember these weird memories when I was a lot younger, specifically around the like financial piece of like, I had money, my friends didn't have money. Therefore, like I wanted my friends to have money. So I would give them my money. Like that was my thought process. And then like, even just like my time or my energy, like I just really, really cared about filling in the gaps. Like if my friends needed something, I could fill it, I could do it. And it's almost like when you talk to people about like overflow of, instead of, you know, filling other people's cup, stand firm and overflow and let it tip over into other people. I clearly did not understand that concept. I was tipping, but I had a lot of capacity and I never had an issue with it and it was always fine. And so what happened, I think, in my 20s is I went to college. I had a lot of capacity because when you're in college, you're very lucky that all of your best friends are like on a campus with you, or at least like a lot of your friends. I was very lucky. I didn't have a lot of like long distance friendships. The only long distance relationship I really had in college was my boyfriend. And transparently, I think I really enjoyed the long distance from him because like I don't think even really liked him. I just think he was just kind of there. So I didn't really feel like I had a lot of issue with friendships or not being super present and available for friendships because I was in college. And so that was fine. And then we go out into the real world and everyone gets busy, because here's the thing is you think you're really busy in college as a student, and then you go out in the real world and you work all the time and you're tired all the time and everyone's in a different place and you get really confused. And so when I got into the real world, no one really needed anything from me because they were all really busy. And I kind of got away with, for about a year or so, not really doing anything with anyone or hanging out with anyone or whatever, because everyone was busy. No one needed anything. So it was like I almost got like lucky. Like it was like a lucky break of like, I could just do what I was doing. So that year, truthfully, when I think about my entire life, I was the most financially successful because all I did was work. And at the time I was about to buy a house. So I was living with my parents and only paying them, funny enough, like $600. I think it was $600. I always forget if it was $600 or $650 or $750 because I also had a car payment. I think my car payment was $750 and my parents, I paid $600. I always forget the numbers, but it was one of those numbers. I paid them for rent. So I had a good salary at 23, 22. I paid my parents' rent. I had my car payment and that was it. So I was banking like $2K a month, plus on the fact that I had multiple 5 figures of money in the stock market for a house. So like everything was good. I was just saving money. I didn't do anything until boyfriend came into play. Then I started to get a little bit busy. But again, all my friends were kind of doing their like post-college thing. And I saw my friends when I did. I would talk to them. I don't know, like I just didn't really feel anything weird. It was not until Paycom, which I've talked about this company a lot, and I'm always waiting for the day when someone's like, shame on you, Paycom's amazing, you're a horrible person. But I worked for this company called Paycom. I've been very adamant, or very honest, I guess, about the fact that when I was there, I was really struggling with feeling good about myself. So I really struggled to like not pour myself into work. It's not anyone at the company's fault. I definitely think there was a toxic environment when I was there, but I'm not going to really go into that because I think every corporate company has something toxic going on because it's just a bunch of people together and like something's bound to happen. But when I was there, I think because I was so upset about my breakup, I felt like I wasn't very good enough because I wasn't achieving anything. Like I was good at my job, but like there wasn't anything else I was really doing. My friends were all busy with their lives. Something about Paycom was my time to like pour into work. Well, while I started pouring into work, we're now into like 24, 25, 26 of my years of life. My friends started to like regulate themselves and be more available. Like my friends are now, like one of my best friends was getting married. So like I needed to be in her wedding. And then like my other friends were like, you know, starting to come up from the surface. And I was trying to like balance that. And that was the first time in my life where I think I was like, I'm going to choose my job over my friends. And I did. And for about 3 years, all I did was talk about my job. I was obsessed with my job. I was obsessed with my whatever, fine. And I started to get a lot of shit on from it. Like my friends were like, dude, put your phone down when we're out at lunch. Dude, I don't care about your boss's kid being born and this and whatever and what your Paycom script is and how you cold call. I just wasn't a very good friend. And I think it's because like no one really needed me. So I just kind of lost my identity of being a good friend and I just became workaholic Ashley yet again. And it wasn't until that last year when COVID hit, really the year before, where I was like, okay, I can't just be workaholic Ashley. I need to prioritize friends. And I started investing in relationships. I hosted bachelor nights. Women came over for things. Like I really just tried to create balance in my life again because I didn't know how to create balance. And when 2020 happened, I always call it when 2020 happened. When COVID came to be, I was supposed to go on a vacation with my best friend that week. We had to cancel it. That was super annoying, but I was FaceTiming them every week and I was starting to be a more present friend. And I felt like I finally had I had it all. Like I had a good job. I had a lot of money. I had a beautiful home. I had great friendships. Like I kind of had it all going. And then COVID happened and it like fucked up everything. I quit my job, as I've talked about many now times. I quit my job. I left a very high paying, well-off, incredible opportunity to basically go work at a company that was horrible and didn't pay me a lot while I tried to figure out what I was going to do. My friends were all navigating the craziness of COVID. Now, I was one of the few of my friends that was alone during COVID. So for 8 weeks, I sat alone, like didn't see anyone. My friends were all had roommates or husbands or other people. So I feel like I was very alone during that time and it was very challenging. And then I was starting a new job and I moved literally 3 months later. But I think because I was craving something to hold on to, I was able to navigate that move very well, or I just hit it all internally maybe. I'm not really sure because I think about this move in comparison to that move, and maybe just because it was COVID and I couldn't physically see people, no one noticed how horribly depressed I was during that time. I remember thinking that I had failed. I remember thinking that I had taken a step back. I had everything that everyone wanted and I lost it. But at the same time, no one asked me to quit my job, but there was also something about quitting my job that I knew would make my friends very happy because my friends, I think at that time for the first time started to make it very well known that they resented me financially. I had one friend in particular who would tell me I could never have a problem because I made good money and I could never understand her life because she's living mouth to mouth or whatever. And I was like, what? Like, I just remember being like, you chose to work this job and make a salary that you can't make a lot of money. I chose to take a job that you can make. Like, I was very confused. I always really struggled with that relationship specifically. And that relationship's no longer in my life, but like I got punished a lot. There was a weird dynamic around money. So I think when I took away my high paying job, it almost made my friends like me more. I don't know if that's a horrible thing to say. And this is not every single person in my life, by the way. I'm not trying to categorize everyone. I just this general wave of feeling was, it was like I was normal again. I feel like when I was at Paycom and I was in the sales job, it was like I was this hustling, high-paying, snobby person. And then when I left that, even though I was buying this gorgeous house and even though I still had the money in my account, like the way that people saw me was different maybe. And so maybe that's what it was, is that because I was like taking a step back in my career, it like made me accessible, or I don't know what the word is, but that's how I felt now, especially even looking back. And so everything continued as normal. COVID obviously eventually kind of settled down. I was pouring into my friendships. And especially when I became a business owner a couple years ago, man, that gave me the ability to be very, very available. And I think I defaulted back into, well, I don't have my job and I'm figuring out this new career path, so I'm going to be crazy available. You know, my best friend was having a baby. I spent, 20 hours, let's just say 20 hours a week for the first 6 weeks at her house. I'm talking like I'm on my phone, rocking the baby to sleep and sending a voice note to a client. Like I was so present. And I was at the hospital when she was born. I went to the hospital. My other friend had surgery and her husband called me and I like stopped my morning and I was at surgery with her. I was babysitting. I was, buying nice gifts for everyone. I went kind of crazy. And I wonder if the identity crisis of like taking a step back in my career made me like repivot my energy again into my friendships. But for the last 3 years, I kind of tried to become like super friend Ashley. I tried to become like the best that I could be. And I think I did a pretty good job of it. I think I set very unrealistic expectations for myself of being present. There was times where I needed to do something for myself and I put it on the back burner to be present. And I'm not blaming anyone in this situation but myself, because I am trying, especially in my 30s, to be someone of an ownership of what I do in situations, even if there was wrong anywhere else. Like I can't control what anyone else does. I can control what myself does. But because I was the 30-year-old that didn't have the husband, didn't have the kids, had a very flexible job, I kind of defaulted to like, I'm going to do what everyone else needs and I'm going to again fill in the glue. Like that's what I became yet again. But the problem is when you do that in your 20s, it's just a different environment because no one has money. Everyone's usually single. And if they're in a relationship, it's, with their silly high school boyfriend or college boyfriend, not usually like their husband, or they're in a marriage or living together. There's no kids involved. We're all silly children that are still trying to find our way. When you're 30, there's this newfound like heaviness of life. First of all, you're watching people in your life pass because your parents are starting to get old. There's health things that weren't an involvement. There's children, which creates a whole new dynamic. Also, your friends are having children. And as a woman who has never had a child, I cannot understand the physical heaviness that exists when you literally bring a child into this world, the emotional heaviness of that journey, plus then having a kid. Like I've never gone through that. I'm sure there's something that I cannot relate to. So now your friends are all becoming unrelatable. Again, when you're 20, you're all in college, you're all in high school, you all do the same shit. You're all getting your first job. In 30, some of your friends are doing really well financially. Some of your friends are literally like 30K in credit card debt. Some of your friends are married. Some of your friends have kids. Some of your friends are having an identity crisis and going through a whole shift. And some of your friends are like at the peak of their career. Like some of your friends have lost all of their parents. Some of your friends, their parents are still 45 years old and you're just like, life is great. Like it's almost like you're all in separate worlds. And so for some reason, going back to this pattern that I had when I was younger in my 30s, I think it didn't work the same way. And then what happened was, because I was dependable Ashley, and that was kind of my identity that I tried to put myself in, when I started to shift, it's like I disrupted the like pendulum. It's like I literally hit the ball and all the things started moving. And I think I really saw that happen once I quit my job and started to want some things back in my relationships. I had 2 specific friendships where I started to realize that things weren't working the way that I needed or wanted. And I started to ask things of those relationships that people were like, no, like this doesn't work. Whether it's being present, whether it's communicating better, like I just didn't really feel like there was balance there. I felt like I was just pushing and pouring and there was no balance there. And then, in this last year, I started getting busier with work, because if anyone has ever been in a business, I will say year 1, I've always said this, like year 1's like hustling, your head's down, you don't notice anything. Year 2 is like you start to realize like what the fuck is going on. Year 3, I think it's just identity crisis year. So I'm entering year 3 of business. I'm having an identity crisis. I'm entering into a new relationship that came out of literally nowhere. I wanted to be single. If anyone would have asked me a year ago, I was like, I want to be single. I don't want to date. I want to do this thing. I will become a cat lady in 20 years. I probably never will because I don't like cats. Sorry, friends, but I just don't like cats. And that was the plan. And then all of a sudden this relationship came to be. Brendan and I decided to move to Chicago together. We moved in together. There's a dog. And if you guys know, this has been a really big change for me. I have been clean home, aesthetic, hotel, Ashley world. And then all of a sudden there's a dog. Like it's been a lot. Both my parents have had cancer in the last year. I lost my last grandparent this last year. I'm also just getting older and becoming a person, and you just question yourself a lot in your 30s. I think that I have felt very unsettled. And so everyone else is kind of in their settled world, but I'm in my unsettled world. And I think in that I needed to take a step back or refocus on myself. And then I think I've now caused disappointment in my relationships. And so the thing that I really am expressing to you is I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be a good friend because I don't think I ever developed that skill set. And it's also something where friendship when you're younger is very simple. It's like, answering text messages and waving in the school hallway or walking to class together or eating lunch together. It's very simple, basic things. And obviously most people are pretty good at that, right? Unless you're just like a bitch or something. But most of the time you're pretty good. The only things you get in fights are about if you talked bad about your friend because you got pissed at them and you shared with Sally that your friend pissed you off or whatever, or your boyfriend issues, or you get obsessed with them and you disappear for a while. It's all very juvenile, silly things. But as the complexity of life increases, the complexity of friendship increases, but we don't talk about it. It just kind of happens. And it's almost like this unspoken experience of everyone's life is changing. No one's in the exact same spot anymore. Everyone's also a completely different person because you are not the same person at 22, 25, 27, 30, and 30, now 33. I always forget how old I am, 33. You're completely different. You need things for yourself. You want to prioritize other people, but also you have to put yourself first. But yet everyone else is trying to put themselves first, but also needs things from you. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who has for a very long time been the good friend, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know if I'm showing up the way that I need to. I don't know if I'm being selfish by prioritizing myself, or I'm actually just finally doing what I need to do, which is prioritize myself. I don't know if I'm communicating the way that I want to. I don't know how to do this. And what's really hard for me is I'm in a new city. So with a new city comes new opportunity and new friendships. I'm scared to start new friendships because I don't feel solid in my current ones. Again, that this is not a blanket statement on everyone, just in general of the last couple years and trying to navigate what I need and what other people need and do the best for other people, also prioritizing myself, but also not being selfish and the confusion of that. So I'm trying to start new friendships in a new city, but I'm afraid to do that. But I'm lonely in this new city, so I need to do that. But I don't know how to make sure that my old friendships are solid because we're all in completely different places. But yet I'm trying to enjoy the fact that I'm in a new place while also trying to be the old person that I was in this old place. Whoa, it's just really hard. And I know this isn't really spilling the sauce or being overly let me give you a lot of detail or whatever else, because one, it's no one's business, the details of my actual inner working personal life. But also two, I try to be very transparent and honest about what I'm navigating. I'm in my 30s. I have no idea if I'm a good friend. I have no idea how to expect things of people while also realizing that I don't want to put too many expectations on people because we're all old and we all have shit going on. And I don't want to be a burden of I'm going to put all these things on you. But I also think we should have expectations of relationships. We should be able to feel safe while also life is just crazy. And I don't think we ever feel fully secure. The duality of every emotion that I'm navigating in this chapter of my life is genuinely really, really hard. And this isn't a conversation that leaves with a lesson. It's just a conversation I wanted to open the door to because if you are feeling heaviness, I get you. If you're feeling confusion, I get you. And I'm just learning alongside with you. I think the thing that I took away from the last couple months specifically is people are going to evolve and change. And it takes two people in a relationship to work towards the relationship. And what I'm having to then decide is, what does it look like to ask things and expect things in return and not be afraid that I'm going to be a burden? What does it look like to just have hard conversations and be open to the fact that like the right people are going to be willing to have those conversations with me. Like, what does that look like? And it's a lot to navigate. And doing it in a new city and doing it in this kind of like literally new chapter because I'm physically here. Well, also fun fact, this is like season 2 of like our podcast, which feels like a new chapter. Like I literally feel like I'm turning this page and I want to rewrite the page. Like I want to start clean with like new ink and literally write the page, while also like all the pages before me I want to take with me, but I also know that I can't. And I think a lot of people are feeling that in this chapter of life of like, what does it look like to embrace a clean slate, while also knowing that like you're never going to be able to fully erase whatever you've existed and felt and had before you. And sometimes you don't want to either. You want to bring those things along with you. So I wanted to have this discussion with you guys today, not really to be like, here's my brilliance, let me give you something that you can take, but just more bring you into what I'm navigating and feeling as a 33-year-old in a new city with, at the time a year ago, 10 plus amazing relationships that I've had for 15 plus years. Now, basically almost none of those, new experiences while also being genuinely afraid of them, and just trying to kind of like figure it all out with no guidebook, no direction, no blueprint, and no idea how to pulse check if I'm actually doing the right thing or doing it well. And yeah, I hope that this discussion can be helpful for you guys who are maybe also feeling the same thing. You're not alone. I think we're meant to have communities and friends, but it's definitely really hard. So I love you guys. Keep pressing on. We can figure this one out together.